What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Deadline Dealer. In this one, we are taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Our yearly goal is to finish over 500. And so if you guys need a reminder of how this works, we're going to be doing every single thing that we possibly can, which means trading prospects and trading anybody and anybody that doesn't fit with trying to reach that goal. So we're going to simulate the entire first half, kind of get an idea of where we're at, what players we think that are going to stick around and be able to help us in reaching that yearly goal. We took on the Miami Marlins the last episode. If you guys missed that, please go check that out. It was an interesting roster reassemble and reshuffle, but we're going to try to do the same thing here with the Baltimore Orioles, and hopefully we don't get into a situation like we had with the Marlins being 19 games under 500 after the All-Star break, which sucks. It's really bad. It's really bad, especially when you're trying to reach a yearly goal of finishing over 500. So let's get into it, taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Obviously, part of this challenge is to identify the players that you want to keep and the players that you want to get rid of when you're trying to push over 500 and try to reach that yearly goal. Jonathan Villar is one of those players I'd like to keep. He has a winning skill set. The contact numbers are good. The power numbers are decent. The fielding numbers are decent as well at second base. And the stealing and speed is really the name of Jonathan Villar's game. And he's got some positional depth there with his secondary positions. He can play anywhere in the infield, plus center field. He can play in the outfield. So I do like me some Jonathan Villar, but obviously he would be the guy that's going to probably fetch the most trade value. Him, along with Trey Mancini, being an 80 overall with the A potential. The computer loves its potential. Can play first, can play all the outfield spots. I don't know if he's fast enough to play center field. I would not put him in center field, but that's just me. But those are two players that I would not want to get rid of, but I know that they're the guys that are going to fetch the most value. So when we look at guys like Keon Broxton with the B potential, Broxton could be a guy that would be on the move. Chris Davis, we have to get rid of Chris Davis. Guys, we just have to do it. But the big thing is trying to find a team that's going to try to take him on. And that contract, $23 million for a 68 overall player. I'm almost going to bet that there is nobody out there. If we wanted to try to find a trade that would work, try to do the trade finder, I almost have a feeling nobody is going to want this guy. This isn't a good situation for the Baltimore Orioles. It's really eating into their cap space, and I know there's no salary cap in baseball, but you do have to pay your players, and you can only afford so much, especially in this game. That's how it works, and he's really eating into that, and we're not able to afford other good players that are going to help us out here. Obviously, with the pitching rotation, we've got guys like Dylan Bundy, John Means, Dan Straley, Cashner, and Hess. A lot of these guys are younger. David Hess at 25 years old. John Means, 25 years old himself. He's got a lot of good things going for him. I do like John Means. I think he's going to actually work out. But when we look at guys like Dylan Bundy, 26 years old, maybe he hits his stride in year 28. He could actually be and take the next step where he needs to be. He actually didn't pitch too bad in 2016 and 2017. Those weren't terrible seasons, all things considered. But I look at the home runs in 2018, giving up 41. A lot of people were talking about juiced ball, and it really showed. And especially at Camden Yards, that ball flies out of that ballpark. So we want to try to build this team based on power. And we want to try to build up that bullpen with ground ball pitchers because, hey, if you can get the ball on the ground versus the ball in the air in Camden, it's going to only help you out. So when I look at this pitching staff, it's obviously the low point of this roster, and even the bullpen is not looking too good. So this is a major rehaul. This is what's going to happen. It's a major rehaul. Tanner Scott might be kept, might be let go. I know that I didn't end up taking him in my Rule 5 draft for the Texas Rangers. Guys, if you want to go check out that series, please do so. Michael Givens, he's a player that's definitely on the block in real life, and I think that we would end up getting rid of him. Does have that B potential. So that's just kind of some of the moves that I'm thinking about making. But yeah, definitely the bullpen is not very good. So what do you say we get started, guys? Let's go ahead and simulate past the All-Star break and see where we're at. All right, guys, so here we are past the All-Star break. We are 40-51. We're 11 games under 500. And this honestly is not as bad as I honestly thought it would be. I feel like the Miami Marlins are a little bit step ahead of the Baltimore Orioles. I thought the Orioles would have been worse off in this simulation, and it turns out that we're only 11 games behind 500 versus 19. Okay, so if you guys remember in the Miami Marlins one, we actually cut that down to 12 games under 500, so we were +7 in the second half. After all the moves we made, after all the trades we made, and hopefully we can actually turn this thing around and get us to +11. It's going to be really difficult, but let's just dive right in and start exploring some trades. But first, before we do that, let's go ahead and look at the lineup and see how everybody's performing here. First, we'll look at batting averages, some power numbers, and then like for guys like Jonathan Villar, we'll look at stolen bases as well. He actually lost an overall point to become an 88. So taking a look at him, he's got 12 for 33 for 269. That's a decent rating there, especially for Jonathan Villar hitting 12 home runs. We saw his totals throughout his career. He's kind of always been hovering around 12 to 14. So he's already surpassed this. He could have his career high in home runs if we keep him around, and I think that we might have to consider that. Keon Broxton hitting 190 in 305 at-bats. This isn't working out. We're going to have to get rid of him. He's not helping. I mean, maybe he's helping defensively out there, but there's a lot of defensive center fielders that can help us out versus what he's going to offer with the bat. It's not good. Trey Mancini, 11 home runs, 278. Dang, that sucks, man. I was hoping that you were going to be able to, like, what do we do? He's behind Jonathan Villar by 1 home run. That sucks. But look at Chris Davis. Okay. All right. 19 home runs for 250. He's actually upped his overall rating by +3. So now we're kind of in a little bit of a predicament. Do we keep Chris Davis? I say we keep Chris Davis. He can be a designated hitter at this point. You know, we're only 11 games out. We're not going to get anything for him. If it happens that we can't end up making any trades for bigger players because of this contract, then he's going to have to go. Which is really sucky. We might have to try to find somebody that's really cost effective, that's actually a really good player. That's going to be hard to find, that can kind of complement Chris Davis so that he stays here and we can hold on to that production. But again, we can't acquire big contracts because of the Chris Davis contract. If we get rid of Chris Davis, we're going to have to enter in someone who's going to have that type of production. 251, 19 home runs, 56 RBIs. You know what I'm saying? This is a very sucky situation for Baltimore, especially with this type of challenge, is you kind of have to work around Chris Davis or you have to decide to keep him. And if you try to keep him, we're not going to be able to acquire big-time contracts, which usually, for the most part, means good players. Dwight Smith Jr., 226, but he is hitting home runs. He is driving in a lot of runs here with 40 RBIs. I don't know. That's tough. Renato Nunez, 249. That's another player that I feel like with that potential, we could end up getting rid of him. 249 is not going to cut it in what I'm envisioning here, especially with trying to get a big push. Rio Ruiz, 15 home runs, 49. So he's driving in some runs. Pedro Severino, 6 home runs for 20. And that's not a good batting average, man. 191. Let's see where Chance Cisco is. 328 in 61 at-bats. So he's a 72. Given his contact rating, 60s and 51, 58. Interesting. I wonder if you do end up having to start Chance Cisco just because of his better batting average. Hanser Alberto, 243, 6 home runs. It's another bench player, guys. Something I'm not interested in keeping around. Taking a look at the pitching staff, John Means doing really well. 377, 141. I think we might have to keep him around. Dylan Bundy struggling. 658. It's unacceptable. He's going to have to move on. David Hess at a 68 with the B potential. We could end up trying to move him. Maybe we just push him back into the bullpen. That's an option too. Andrew Kashner, 4-10 with a 5 ERA. That's not going to cut it. And then Dan Straley, 4-7 with a 4.7. That's also not going to cut it. Let's look at Tanner Scott here with a 3 ERA with 24 innings pitched. Michael Givens doing well, 2.7 with a 1.61, and Richard Blyer 2.2 with a 1.1. So these are some pretty decent numbers here in the back end. Gabriel Ynoa 3.64, so he's 7-3. So maybe we try to keep some of these guys, keep the 70s, and then try to figure out how we're going to acquire some good players to bring in here. Let's start looking at some trades. So first trade we're going to make here is acquiring Jose Martinez. We obviously need some offensive help. He could probably play DH for us. He could be an outfielder. He could play first ahead of Trey Mancini. Maybe we can put Mancini in the outfield. So it gives us a lot of options here. I'm not saying all those things are definitive, like we're going to do that. But look at what Martinez can do, guys. 86, 96 in the contact. The clutch is 86. The durability, he's not getting hurt. Then again, I did turn injuries off. His arm strength is an 81. Arm accuracy, 66. So it's not like he's a bad player. He's just not going to hit a lot of home runs. He's currently hitting 306. He has double digits right there, 12 home runs. So he's not going to get to be a power bat for us. But going from Busch Stadium to Camden Yards, we could see a power jump with Jose Ramirez. And we're not even giving up that much at all. We're giving up Rio Ruiz, a 73 overall player at 24 years old, and again, he's not doing anything for us. He does have 15 home runs. He does have more home runs than what Jose Martinez does, but the 209 batting average isn't helping us. It's not helping us. So I'm thinking that if we acquire Jose Martinez to help get people on base, he could be a number 2 type of hitter. He can hit some home runs. He's definitely got a little bit of power, more so with the contact. After Jonathan Villar, we could have Villar, Martinez, and then Mancini. That's a pretty good 1-2-3 punch. I like this trade. I think we're going to pull the trigger. That would actually give Renato Nunez the third base job all to himself, and then we're not having to deal with the Rio Ruiz and Renato Nunez duo that's currently happening. Who knows? We might even try to search for a third baseman that it might actually help us here in this push. So let's go ahead and pull this trigger. We're going to get Jose Martinez. You guys might be thinking, Goldie, why do you love yourself some Adam Frazier all the time? Why do you keep trying to acquire this guy? But I'm going to do it again, and we're going to trade Keon Broxton away, a 76 overall player, for Adam Frazier. I know we're taking on a little bit more extra money, but he does give us some positional depth. He's a good hitter, 79, 76 with the contact. Vision is good, clutch is great. Defensively, he's pretty decent. He's got a left-handed bat. He's hitting pretty good with the OBP. It's 364. He seems like he's having a really good season, and that's obviously an upgrade, in my opinion, for a guy that's hitting 190 through 79 games versus a guy that's hitting 287 in 86 games. You know what I'm saying? Plus, he can play center field. He's not the fastest guy out there at 52 speed, but you know, maybe we can actually shift some of these guys around. Maybe we put Dwight Smith Jr. out in center field, or well, we guess we don't really have a center fielder at that point because nobody's fast enough in order to play that. So I still like the move. I still like the trade. Let's go ahead and pull this trigger. Keon Broxton for Adam Frazier. So this is a move we are definitely going to make. Castellanos, I know he's got that 9.9, but we are shaving off 3.3 million, so we're taking on 6.6 more million dollars. We're getting rid of Rickard, Michael Givens, and Steve Wilkerson, who, by the way, is not going to be part of the plans to push us over the top here. He's got that B potential. I know, guys, don't get me wrong. Some of these guys are good minor league players that you guys are really hoping for if you're Orioles fans, but it's not part of this game mode. It's not part of this little challenge that we're doing. So we are going to be moving on from Steve Wilkerson. He's going to be part of this trade. But I love myself some Joey Rickard. I love him. He's actually, what's interesting, he's 11 points lower in overall, but from looking at what he can do defensively and contact-wise versus Jorge Soler was another player that I was looking at acquiring to be our right fielder. He's a little bit better. Looking at his numbers, I feel like Rickard's a little bit better. So I don't know what and why the power numbers versus what he has here at 50 and 48 compared to what Jorge Soler has is 11 points different in overall rating, but I didn't want to get rid of him. basically what I'm saying. I didn't want to get rid of him. I thought very heavily, very strongly that maybe Rickard might be our guy. If Jorge Soler is a 77 and Rickard could be our guy in right field, giving us the same type of production, I mean, why wouldn't you do that, right? So looking at it a little bit further, it seems like he would be part of that trade that would net us Nick Castellanos, and apparently the Tigers are good with this. I think we're going to go ahead and do this. So there you go. We got Nick Castellanos, guys. So now we look at our offense here real quick. We are boasting Severino, Trumbo, Chris Davis, Villar, Frazier, Nunez. We still probably need a shortstop, in my opinion. Trey Mancini. We still need a center fielder. Jose Martinez, Nick Castellanos, Dwight Smith Jr. Everything's looking pretty solid. So this trade right here is mostly just trying to offload some salary. We're getting rid of 9.1, but we are also acquiring $575K back. I tried to end up trading for Albert Almora Jr., and it wouldn't allow us to do it because of budgetary constraints. And if you guys will notice here, we are in kind of a predicament. I knew this would happen here. Jonathan Villar at 4.8, Martinez at 1.5, 9.9, and then obviously the albatross here being Mark Trumbo and Chris Davis. Alex Cobb's up there, 23 million, 14.3. So these are bad contracts that we might want to consider getting rid of right now, in order to help us make some more moves, especially when we've got our offense is pretty much set. I would like to think. I said that we need a center fielder, which we're acquiring right now, but we do need a shortstop. I know I'm getting rid of Richie Martin, but again, those numbers, those offensive numbers, are not going to help us. Hanser Alberto, those numbers are not going to help us. 6 home runs in 74 games, not going to cut it. So we're trying to figure out shortstop from here. Hopefully this moving on from salary cap is going to help us. Guys, I have actually no idea why Mark Trumbo was not on the 40-man roster. Doesn't make any sense to me, but we called him up, and hopefully we can start utilizing that 77 power against righties and lefties. I can't find anybody that's better than Hanser Alberto. I really can't, because his stats aren't that bad. He's just not really performing in the batting average or the power department. And then when we look at this, 50 power, 63 power, he plays pretty darn good defensively. He seems to me like he would be more of a backup type of player, because when we look at the players that we have just acquired, Adam Frazier can play second base for us. That's an option. Then we can stick Jonathan Villar over at shortstop, which would pretty much fix the middle of the infield. Renato Nunez can still play third base for us. Look at those numbers aren't bad. Those numbers aren't terrible, but I thought that we could do a little bit better at the 249 average, 10 home runs. I'm still exploring third base, but I think shortstop is pretty much set now. I remember talking about, center field and shortstop, but, looking at it, it doesn't look like shortstops are going to be able to be gotten here with what we have available to trade and what people are asking for. It looks like we're going to just move VR over to short and put Adam Frazier here at second. So guys, this is more of a depth move. I don't anticipate David Freese starting for us, because I think Renato Nunez has the numbers in order to sim well. When we look at his numbers though, 58-63, 59-62. So just remember that, hovering around the 50s and 60s with power and contact. But when we look at David Freese, 60 and 90 against left-handers. The power numbers are not even close to where Renato Nunez is, and defensively speaking, 75-69. They're really about the same. So just acquiring David Freese is kind of a depth type of option. I'm still leaning towards just giving Nunez the start at third base and calling it good. But I think that this trade helps us, because I don't think that Ryan Mountcastle is ready quite yet for a call-up. He doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like he's going to help us with this push. Remember, we have to go plus 11. All right, guys, so just a little bit of an update here for everything that has gone on. Taking a look, we still need some starting pitching. That's going to be our next thing up on the board. Relief pitching as well is going to have to get fixed. Who's going to be our closer? That's going to have to be solved as well. So our pitching staff is going to be the next thing to focus on. Catcher, Pedro Severino, and Cisco will be our guys. Trumbo, Davis splitting some time there at first base, or designated hitter, Depends on where we put Trey Mancini or Jose Martinez. That's the big get. Adam Frazier at second base. Freese and Nunez going to be splitting some time, whoever gets hot. Albert Almora Jr. in center field. And then Jose Martinez and Nick Castellanos in right field. And then again, I think I'm going to stick with Castellanos in right field and then put Jose Martinez either at first or designated hitter. I think that that's just the best spot for him. I think we're just going to have to stick with Mancini out left, especially when we're looking at Trumbo or Chris Davis at first. So in order to get something, you have to give up something. I think acquiring Matt Boyd is going to do some good things. He's not having a very good sim right now, but I'm hoping for better things when we trade for him. He's got the C potential, 77 overall pitcher, but I know that maybe real life is not going to apply to this game right now, but at a 71 K per 9, I mean, you can't really go wrong with that. Control is decent at a 61. So Matthew Boyd, he's cost effective. He's going to be one of our best pitchers, if not our best starting pitcher. He would be. He'd be our ace right then and here. But we're not even giving up that much, especially when you consider Jessamel Valentin's only at 57 overall and 24 years old. I actually like Valentin. I think that he's got a lot of good tools to work with, especially with the bat. Just watching him, even scouting him for the Rangers franchise that I do. And I think this is a pretty good trade. I know the Tigers love their grindy type of middle infielders, and especially Al Avila. But I don't think that he's going to be anything like, the next up-and-coming Dustin Pedroia or something. So you might as well just get rid of him now, especially for a pitcher that's under control. It makes sense. And then Anthony Santander. I've always liked Santander, but he's never really put it together. So I like what he's able to do. I think the Tigers would be more than willing to make this trade. And as you guys can see, it's right even down the board in the offer trade screen. So we're going to go ahead and do this. Matthew Boyd for Santander and Valentin. There's Matthew Boyd in the Orioles orange right there. So next thing, we're going to try to acquire another pitcher, but we have to get rid of Alex Cobb some way, somehow. $14 million just eating up the salary cap. So let's just go ahead and try to find something out there for Alex Cobb. It might have to be a relief pitcher. This seems like a pretty good move, in my opinion. Tony Cingrani coming on over, being a 76 overall relief pitcher. He'd be another left-hander in our repertoire. We would have Sean Gilmartin. I'm going to end up calling him up. Tanner Scott probably going to end up being our closing pitcher. And maybe Cingrani might be able to be our closing pitcher as well. I know that he did get some save chances and some save opportunities a few years ago in Cincinnati. He's never been a guy that's been able to put it together either, but he's cheap. We're saving basically $12 million, maybe a little bit less than that, about 11 on this move. I know that it might not be a popular one because we're getting rid of a starting pitcher that's already in our rotation, but I think we can do a little bit better. I really believe that. I think we can do better than Alex Cobb, especially with what he's been able to give us right now with a 4.9, and he's 5-15. I know it's not the same team anymore. Maybe he might be a little bit better with a better team behind him, but we have to get rid of some of that salary in order to make the moves necessary to push us over. So I think that this trade works. It's two guys that have been kind of injury prone and never really done a whole lot and never put it together and put all the talent level together. So might as well just do it, make the trade. Here's a trade that I think is actually going to help us quite a bit. Acquiring Julio Teheran, a 77 overall player, and he's actually not that pricey, especially for being a starting pitcher. And you guys know starting pitchers make a lot of freaking money, right? In the MLB, I mean, look at Kevin Gausman at 9.4, Foltynewicz at 5.5. I think that this trade works. I mean, they're getting a lot of production out of these two young arms, Max Fried and Soroka, and that's really the name of the game. If you have young pitching, it's cheap, it's effective. All those guys are pitching for contracts, right? But Julio Teheran, being 28 years old, I know he's not having too good of a season right here at 604, but look at his career numbers. Those are pretty solid numbers. I think that works for us. It helps us with what we're trying to accomplish. And then AJ Minter, he can be our closer. Look at those numbers: 97 miles an hour, 96. He's also got a cutter and a change. Left-hander. We could end up using all three of our left-handers: Scott, Gilmartin, Cingrani, Minter. Like, that's a pretty nasty group of left-handed arms. And depending on who the left-handed hitter is, maybe it's Maybe if it's a guy that isn't very good at catching up to 96-mile-an-hour fastballs, well, you want to consider Scott or Minter. And if it's a guy that's a little bit slower, maybe you need a ground ball or something, you go with Sean Gilmartin. These are options that we have now in this back end of the bullpen, and I know that there's a lot of fans out there of Cedric Mullins, and myself included, but he's a 62. He's not going to help us with what we're trying to do in this mode or in this little challenge here. So let's just pull the trigger and let's go ahead and acquire Julio Teheran and AJ Minter. This is getting to be a pretty formidable Orioles roster, if I do say so. So let's also go ahead and consider another starting pitcher, because obviously 70 overall pitchers is not going to cut it. So we want to start considering some guys that are in the 80s. So look at this trade. Lance McCullers Jr., knuckle curve, two-seamer change. He'd be a pretty decent pitcher for us. He doesn't cost that much. He's a very good one at an 81, and we are actually going to have to give up Dylan Bundy in order to get him, which I think it makes some sense for us to do that. We would be giving up Dylan Bundy in the back end of our pitching rotation for a guy that's going to be a top line starter, and we're only giving up a relief pitcher in Paul Fry that's not doing a whole lot of good things for us at a 5.11 ERA. We're also having to give up Austin Hayes, which sucks, but you gotta pull the trigger on some of these things to make this big trade happen. And I'm liking the way our team is looking right now. Let's get a little bit of an update here. So we have Lance McCullers, who actually hasn't even pitched, so the CPU hasn't even called him up. So it's not like he's got a ton of innings already logged this season. So we've got McCullers, Teheran, Boyd, John Means, and Straley as our number 5. So we might want to consider something else other than that being our fifth starter. He's making $5 million at a 69, so maybe we might want to package him in some trade to get rid of him, because it doesn't make sense. So number 5 starter making $5 million bucks, not good for me. All right, so we're giving up 2 pitchers, Dan Straley and DL Hall, for Zach Davies. He would end up being our number 5 starter by the looks at it. Maybe not, actually. I take that back, because Boyd would get dropped down to be the number 4 guy, with Zach Davies being the number 3. So your starting rotation would end up looking like McCullers, Teheran, Davies as the number 3, Boyd is the number 4, and John Means is the number 5. I actually like that staff. Obviously, it's not going to be anything crazy good, but it is going to be a lot better than where we were at. So let's pull the trigger here. We're actually saving some money on this trade too. Whoa, okay. Crazy. Interesting. This is something... This is hilarious, because I didn't even mean to do this. This was by accident. They want Sean Gilmartin for Brad Brock. I'm like, okay, why wouldn't you do that? Let's bring Brad Brock back in. Try to say that 5 times fast. He's having a really good season. He's probably not going to be a closing pitcher for us, but maybe we decide to start using Brock and AJ Minter as kind of our little duo here for closer job. Brad Brock faces the righties. Minter faces the lefties. Maybe we have a setup in a closing type of situation. I don't know, but I like it. Let's do it. It's another trade I pretty much like. Let's go ahead and grab Seth Lugo. He's cost effective, and he's a right-handed pitcher. He can get you a ground ball if you need it. He's got a repertoire of pitches: curveball, 4-seam, 2-seam, slider, and they're pretty good pitches as well. Got a lot of effectiveness with those, so I say let's go ahead and pull the trigger here and further bolster that bullpen. I know we're starting to get rid of some prospects for these major league ready guys, but Blaine Knight, again, he's not going to help us with what we're trying to do. Interesting trade offer right here, guys. Greyson Rodriguez, a prospect, for Mitch Garver, 76 overall player. Look at the hitting numbers: 68, 69, 55, 52. Power, discipline is pretty nice. Defensively speaking, not as good as Pedro Severino, but look at the hitting. 9 doubles, 309 at 401 OBP. 26 walks, 193. 11 doubles, like we mentioned, 193, 274. So I think that this is a trade that we have to make. We have to make this trade. 68, 69, 55, 52. Remember the power numbers: 55, 52 for Garver compared to 59-59, and you're getting a big-time boost in contact numbers. It makes sense. It makes sense. The fielding is a 59 compared to a 68. It's only 9 points worse for Garver, 78 to 87, 72 to 60, 57 to 72 for reaction and blocking. They're almost close. They're close defensively. They're close, except for the arm accuracy. That's really where Severino is really standing out ahead of Garver. I know he's an 81 overall, but I think Mitch Garver is going to help push us to where we want to be. So I'm actually going to go ahead and give Mitch Garver the job over Severino and see where that gets us. And guys, I think we're done. We're done with trades. I think that this team is going to help. So let's go ahead and sim and see how everything's going to go. All right, guys, so here is the lineup, and I love it. I absolutely love it. This is such a Doug team. By the way, for those of you guys that don't know my name is Doug. But this is such a Doug team. You got your contact up top, Villar, Almora. Not so much power in the number 3 hole, but you got a extremely good, a prodigious contact hitter at number 3. Pure power in the number 4 and number 5. David Freese at 3rd. Adam Frazier at number 2, so another leadoff type of player in the number 7. And Trumbo at 8 can give you some power in the back end. And then Mitch Garver in the number 9. It's a very good offense. I like it. I'm so excited about this. I want to see how we're going to do here, guys. And then against righties, it's pretty much the same lineup, but Castellanos is actually DHing. And then we have Renato Nunez playing 3rd versus David Freese, who's sitting the bench. And then on your bench, you have Chris Davis, who can kind of come in as a pinch hitter if you need it. I'm basically going with Trumbo because of the contact numbers are better. He's a better overall player at 76 versus Chris Davis at a 70 or a 67, excuse me. But yeah, I think this is really going to help us out, guys. I'm really digging this roster right now, or this lineup. Looking at the pitching staff, Lance McCullers is all the way up to an 88. Zach Davies is an 80. Tehran a 77. Boyd a 75, and Means a 73. So lefty. And we've got our 2 lefties. I like it. And then Tehran, Davies, and McCullers as your top 3 headed monster at the rotation. Gabriel Yanoa, Tanner Scott, Blyer, and we've got Lugo, Brock, and Minter in the back end. I like the setup pitchers. I like the bullpen. It's not too expensive of a bullpen. It's going to get you by in the mid-70s. I'm digging it. All right, guys, so at the trade deadline, yes, stop simulating here. 50 and 58. So we actually gained some ground. End of July, we ended up sweeping the Tampa Bay Rays here, and against the Diamondbacks, who won the series, actually split the series against the Angels, and against the Padres, here we are with a 2-game series that ended up splitting there. And there's the trade deadline, and we're 8 games back. It's time to simulate August, and then we'll see how we're looking here in September. All right, so there we go, guys. Take a look at how we did in August. We're 65 and 70, so we're getting closer. We're 5 games. 5 games. We got to go +5 in a month. That's going to be really difficult to do here in September, but we're going to give it a go. Here we go. Oh my gosh, guys, we're so close. Oh, we're above 500. We did. Oh, yes, we did it. 81 to 81. Oh my God. Stop the sim. Stop the sim. Oh man, this 3-game stretch right here. We were above 500, like right here. And then I'm like, oh, we can push over. We can push over. And then look, loss. Oh, guys, this team came through. 81 and 81, finished the season. Awesome. But now I can't look at the season stats because we're already in the playoffs, but I will give you guys a stats update right here. So we did it. I learned from how we did with our Marlins deadline dealer, and now we got deadline dealer accomplished. So we're 1 for 2. We're batting 500. in this little challenge mode. So we'll start with the hitting first. How did Mitch Garver do to end the season? He had 277 with 9 homers, 43 RBIs. Pedro Severino, did he get the batting average up? He did. I think the limited playing time probably helped him a little bit. And here's Adley Rutschman. I don't think he got the call up at all, so that's good. So we didn't start the service clock on him. But Chris Davis and Mark Trumbo, looks like they did some pretty... Ooh, Mark Trumbo in the second half hit 16 home runs. Now think about that. Had he actually been activated, had I done the smart thing and looked to see if Mark Trumbo was activated on the team or not, he would have hit 32 home runs, maybe more. He hit 292 in split playing time. Chris Davis ended the season with 20 home runs and 252. Cut down on the strikeouts with the limited playing time. How did Adam Frazier do? Adam Frazier's my boy. 28. What? 28 home runs for Frazier. 297. Dang. Adam Frazier had a career season here in Baltimore. Remember what I told you guys? You get players like this with high contact rates in Camden Yards, they do some really good stuff. So Adam Frazier, with a ton of home runs, his career season. Nunez up to 259, so the extra protection seems like it helped him out. David Freese, 15 home runs, 257. Villar, did he have a good season? He had 299 with 39 stolen bases. So remember what I said, we wanted some protection for Jonathan Villar. We gave it to him, and he did amazing in the second half. I think he had 12 home runs, so he more than doubled in the second half of the season. Had 42 doubles. That's a career high. It's a career high for home runs as well. 299 is also a career high. This is crazy. It's crazy. It's really awesome to see how the extra added protection into the lineup really helps some of these players here. So here's Trey Mancini, 261, 27 homers, 93 ribs. Albert Almora, how did he do defensively and offensively here? He did decent, did pretty decent, 273. What was his fielding percentage? I'm curious. 988. Wins above replacement, 3.4. Wow, that's a lot. How did Jose Martinez do? 311 with 31 bombs, 98 RBIs. So a lot of these guys are getting career seasons out here in Baltimore. I mean, the guy hit 31 bops. That's huge. Basically hit 14 home runs more and 16 RBIs more than he did in last season in 2018 with St. Louis. So, guys, maybe I need to run a Major League Baseball team. I'm just kidding. Nobody would make these trades in real life. I just want to make that clear. So Castellanos had a career season, well, in home runs at least. In home runs, probably he's been kind of spread across the board. Like some years he hits not as many home runs or RBIs, but he hits a ton of doubles at 46, hit 298, and then in 2017 with Detroit had 41 walks. That's the second highest that he's had, but 26 home runs. Yeah, so he's just an overall good hitter. Like, he does things situationally where you would expect a hitter to perform in certain ways, and he does that. And so, looking at his batting average, not so great, 269. You take it. You definitely take it for a guy like Castellanos, but you have seen him do better. But it's awesome. It's awesome stuff to see these guys, really come through. And we went plus 11. Okay, went plus 11. We won 11 more games than we lost in the second half. If this lineup was all season, we probably would have made the playoffs. I said that last time with the Marlins, but you want to do something cool, guys? You want to do something cool? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually, after we do the statistics here, I'm going to do something different with this. We're going to go ahead and simulate the entire 2020 season and see how this team does. Since we went plus 11 in the second half, I'm curious to see how we do with that. So I'll go ahead and I'll sign the contracts for everybody and get everybody signed up, and it'll be the same team, the same roster, and we'll go from there. But Lance McCullers finished the year with a 5-3 record. Remember, he didn't pitch in the first half for whatever reason. I think it was just due to the CPU not getting the 40-man rosters right, but finished the year 397 out in Baltimore, 77 Ks. That would have been good for about 140 144, which would have been his about where he's always been at with his career. Julio Teheran brought the ERA way down. Remember, he was at a 6.05. He finished the year 11-11 with a 4.94, which is pretty much close to where he's always been at, but he even did better. He did better than where he's been at with his career average in order to bring that 6.05 ERA down. So awesome job by Teheran. Again, kind of a 500 type of pitcher, 9-9. He went 11-11 for us, so awesome stuff there. Zach Davies got a +2, and where he was at, a 4.35. Also did not pitch in the first half of the season. We went 6-5 and had 58 strikeouts. Pretty much performed as you would expect him to. John Means got a +2 in his overall, 3.71. I like what we got out of John Means, man. 14-9. 14-9 for John Means. Had a stellar year for being as young as he is. And then Matthew Boyd went 11-11 also and had a 4.99 ERA. So I like what our starting pitching staff did. Had a really good year, especially considering the first half. You know, Gabriel Ynoa pitched solid. Richard Blyer, 3.14. Tanner Scott, 5.5. He was pitching better than that, I thought, if I'm remembering it correctly. He was pitching better than that when we made some other changes. Seth Lugo, 4.21 with a 1.4. Brad Brock, how did he do with a 2.88? Like that, had 20 holds. And then AJ Minter, how did he do as our closer? Had 22 saves. 22 saves overall on the season. And again, he did not pitch in the first half for the Atlanta Braves. He pitched in 29 games for us and converted 22 saves in 29 innings. So that's awesome. That's awesome. A lot of guys don't get to 20 saves in a season, so it's really good to see AJ Minter do some good things there. So guys, I'm really pumped up about this. I'm really excited about this, that we were able to get it done and put our trading and our acquisitions to the test, to the simulation test. So let's go ahead in advance here, go to the offseason. I'm going to end up signing, like I said, I'm going to end up signing everybody. Red Sox defeat the Dodgers for another back-to-back World Series between the two of those teams. But I'm going to go ahead and sign everybody back and go from there. And I think this is just fun to do. We didn't do this with the Marlins, but I want to see how this team would have done if it was assembled at the beginning of the year. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So let's just go ahead and simulate the entire season, and I'll give you guys an update on how we did. We'll keep on simming and see how we do here. Just keep on simming. We don't worry about the All-Star game or the results. We don't care. Hopefully maybe this team makes the playoffs. Now we're starting to win some big-time games against AL East opponents. Took down the Yankees right there. They took it back to us again, though. Trade deadline, 57-55 at the deadline, and sweeping Detroit. Splitting the series here in Houston. August, we're only 3 games above 500. Maybe this is a 500 baseball club, guys. Maybe that's what we put together. So our AAA and our AA teams didn't make the playoffs. That's fine. Well, we won more games than we did last year. 85-77. So that's what the team is 85-77. Looking at the standings, 85-77. We are 15 games back from the Red Sox, who went 162. We would not have made the playoffs in the West. We would not have made the playoffs in the Central. And the wild card, we were 11 games back from the Yankees and the Athletics, who tied both 96 and 66. So did we do the job? I would say that we did. And we turned this Baltimore Orioles team around in a very, very quick fashion. Our players are improving every single year by the looks of it. Lance McCullers up to an 89. Mancini's up to an 89. So we did a good job. And we met our goal for the ownership expectations of being at or above 500 for 2019. And then going into 2020, we were way above 500 with 8 games above. So guys, leave a like if you like this thing, and if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that red button for subscribe, or my logo in the bottom right hand corner does the same thing. I'll see you guys in the next Deadline Dealer episode. Post in the comment section which team you want me to do next. I will highly consider all the other teams that we haven't done yet, which would be all the other teams we haven't done yet. We've already done the Orioles and the Marlins, the 2 worst teams in baseball. So let's maybe focus on a team that's already good. We'll go ahead and simulate the first half, see where we're at, make a couple trades here and there, try to get us into the playoffs or win a World Series, depending on what that goal is for that specific team. We'll find out. I'll see you guys in the next one. As always, peace.